I still love that intro song. Anyway, welcome to another episode of Dynasty Underdog. I'm your host, Uriah Dawkins. With me tonight, Billy Beeman, Jake Cornblue. What's going on, guys?
Doing great. Was it? I think 8 of the 11 playoff teams I had made it to semifinals, which I'm just
Excellent.
gonna try to soak in that and enjoy it because I'm sure that I'll be quickly disappointed in what happens after this. But I will say, kind of, springboarding off of our conversation last week, talking about our portfolios and everything, 8 of my 16 teams, so 50% made it to the semis. I mean, that feels good, whether there's a fluke or two in there or not. Yeah, I'm feeling good this week, man. I'm just gonna try to soak in it because I know I won't for long. How you doing, Jake?
Good. Honestly, that's awesome because that's where I'm basically sitting at, dude. And I honestly was like, I couldn't believe it when I woke up. What was it this morning? Yeah. I didn't want to check the scores last night because some of my matchups were way too tight. And I was just like, holy shit. Like I actually squeezed that out. We're talking about thank the Lord that there was just such a terrible Monday Night Football game and most of the players did not blow up, which I was expecting just because, that's kind of just the way that you think. You're like, oh, that guy's going to have a career game this week. But yeah, I think 7 of 9 that made it into the playoffs, made it into the semis, and then 7 of 12 are still in the playoffs. So, man, I am feeling good. How about yourself, Uriah?
That's good. Only had 4 teams in the playoff out of my total 8. 3 of them had buys, so I kind of
was about to say none of them played this week, so he's feeling great. He's feeling amazing.
The one that did play, I had really no business. This is the thing. I would probably be killing it in the toilet bowl if I had kind of tanked myself a little bit. A couple weeks before the playoffs started and tried to get the last spot in the toilet bowl. I think I might have tried to do that looking back, but it's all good. I knew I wasn't really going to make it very far.
Especially that league too, because it's you'd be playing for basically an extra one. I'll call it an extra second, an extra early second, which is crazy good value.
Yeah,
and it does hurt the ego a little bit to be like, do I want to go for the extra draft pick or do I want a possible chance at going at the money? It's like a weird dynamic you got to play with yourself.
Yeah, I really didn't consider it until probably it's too late.
I'll be honest. I don't think that ever crosses my brain any year most of the time, and it should. On those fringe teams where maybe DU3, for example, right, where it's like, should I have just kind of let myself fall into the toilet bowl and nabbed the extra first, and then, or tried to nab the extra first, it's not guaranteed, and then maybe set my team up better for the following year. So that's actually a really good point that Uriah brings up there that I'll probably try to look into next year with those fringe teams. But I will say, speaking of DU3, shout out our boy Matt. He came away with a win there that I thought I was going to steal from him, and that was really one of the only teams that I thought had some legs if I did get through. But he took it from me, so shout out there. But me and Jake also, just to mention, we co-managed 2 redraft teams this year, both of them in the playoffs. One had a bye, so very, very proud of that. And 5 of my 6 redraft teams made it into the semis too. So I'm like just living it up right now. I'm very, very happy. Did a good job.
That's very good.
Yeah, my redraft chops aren't usually that dialed in, but I do feel like over the last couple of years I've been using the resources around me and kind of getting a little bit better there. So I think that kind of makes me a better dynasty player too, just in general, better fantasy player. So yeah, it's been a good year, and hopefully it finishes off in a way that that works for everybody, but that I can take home some ships. But it was crazy that game last night with A-Chain, who we needed to score under 24 points, but I needed to score just enough to get me another win, and he did both of those things. It's just a wild time. But anyway, we can move on and get into the sheet. Sorry.
Oh, can I say one thing? Just to shout out to one of our listeners and someone in our Discord. I wanted to shout out Jay in the Discord. He's made it into, I believe it's now the semifinals, the Scott Fishbowl. That's just such an insane achievement, dude. I just want to shout him out. He's done an amazing job with not just the initial draft, but I know so much of the waiver wire moves that he's made. A lot of his start sit decisions have just been so incredible throughout the way. So I wanted to shout out him there. And then also in the Super League, which was that other charity league that I shouted out last week, 7 of the final 15. I didn't make it. I was number 18. It was really depressing. But 7 of the final 15 are all from the Superflex Super Show Discord, which is only like a little under 200 folks. So shout out to those guys. One of them happens to be Tommy Blair. Shout out to FF Tommy B. You are killing it per usual, always just laying down strategy and being able to just continue to help educate the rest of us. But wanted to shout out all those people because it's just an awesome smaller community within a really small community, and we're all just killing it. So shout out to all those folks. Anyway, that's all I want to say. Sorry.
7 people that's pretty impressive though for a league like that. So that's really cool. And that MB10 score that we're seeing kind of floating around both our Discord and I'm sure all throughout the Superflex Discord, that stat that Tommy came up with, which we should probably bring him on and talk a little bit more in depth about it. I know we talked about it before, but now that he's fleshed it out, it's probably worth talking about a little bit more. It looks like it has pretty high correlation with fantasy success. So something we're going to want to pay attention to, and a clear reason why I guess a lot of those guys are probably having success this year.
Cool. Yeah, let's hop into some news and nonsense then. Just a quick warning. I have some inclement weather. I live kind of out in the middle of nowhere, but really just in between 2 really big places. And anyway, I may or may not make it through the whole episode, so we'll see. Anyway, news and nonsense. Pat Mahomes, man, terrible. Feel bad for him, especially I feel bad for my teams that have Pat Mahomes on them. But he had ACL, I guess, and LCL, but he had surgery today on it. So I guess that's a good thing. Normally, you don't typically see guys get surgery that quick after the injury. So swelling must have been down at a reasonable measure. So I guess at least I'm no doctor, but I'm guessing recovery will be a little bit faster than maybe some of the other injuries that we've seen in the past.
Yeah, I just want to say, it helps that it was kind of non-contact, right? Because I think the contact ones are the ones where you get a lot more of the damage around that kind of they had the inflammation and everything. So that's probably something to do with it. But yeah, that's a brutal situation. Just given the fact that, you have Rashee Rice, I'm sure, on a lot of teams, Travis Kelce on a lot of teams heading into the fantasy semifinals and fantasy championships. And it's like, what do you do? And I feel like you just kind of got to roll those guys out there. We've definitely seen Minshew be able to, do enough to keep these guys productive for our purposes. So I'm not too worried there, but does this maybe expedite Kelce's, retirement, this year? Maybe, you know what I mean? Because could he have stuck around maybe, an extra year knowing that they'd have everything together? And now it's like, is Pat going to be ready for next season? You know what I mean? That's kind of the idea. So, and any concerns there for, Jake, Uriah, anything?
I think on the teams that I have, Kelce, I think that he's just going to be considered a dead asset. I'm going to be starting him most realistically, given his matchups and given what that offense looks like during the small window. Watching Minshew play this past week, I think Rashee Rice and Kelce will still be targeted a ton. So I'm not super concerned about those 2 assets. But yeah, go ahead.
No, the only thing I was going to say, sorry, I just wanted to throw out there, just thinking about it, does Kelce even play? They have nothing to play for. So does he maybe sit at least in maybe the finals in 2 weeks from now? Maybe not this week. I don't know why it would make much of a difference, but Rice probably plays, young player, just trying to continue to grow and show he's part of the team and everything. But Kelce, what does he have to play for? So that's just something that you got to monitor that and be thinking of a backup plan already. And if you know trade deadline, maybe consider some options before that news breaks.
Yep. Another bad news, Devonta Adams, hammy. He was looking pretty good, but he's running out there and then was all like, oh my God, in Miami. So
looked like he got shot in the back of the leg.
They're saying it's week to week, but that's I don't think we'll probably see him
week to week until next year.
I don't think we'll probably see him.
He might be in the NFL
sure in the playoffs, right?
But yeah,
you're probably right.
Yeah.
But that's it looked like the way he pulled up and how bad it seemed, like it was probably near a tear of some sort.
Yeah,
right. And
definitely.
those are hard to come back from. Those are hard to come back from, especially at 32, 33, whatever he is. Is he older than that? I don't know. He's old enough to where I know what it feels like to even remotely get an injury on one of those muscles. You're like, no, this is not cool. So yeah, no more fantasy playoffs for Davante Adams. Would you, at this point, like, I'd consider moving him, right? Like for a usable piece, because I mean, I'm sure he'll be usable next year again, but yeah, I'd look for options out there, both like with Kelsey and him. I'm looking to see if anybody wants that exact piece plus something to go get something else, and I'm trying to make it a cheap acquisition, but yeah.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. Maybe I'll try and move Kelsey for like Brenton Strange or something if it's like on the right build. Just try and get into some other usable asset moving forward if it's going to like another contender and they think that they're getting the points right now. I don't know, try and play those weird psychological games. The only thing I wanted to add on the Davante Adams thing, I just want to shout out my man Kanata Mumpfields. There's been a lot of hype. There's been a lot of hype, all I'm saying. And the Sean McVay hive has said from the very onset that basically he's just going to sit in this kind of subsidiary role to Davante all year, learn from him. And I think this is going to be really the first big time that we'll see Kanata take on that role and play the Davante Adams role. I'm not saying that he is Davante Adams. I don't think he's remotely as good as Davante Adams. I just think that he's been able to sit there now for 15 weeks, learn from probably one of the best to play the game the way he does. Not saying he's the best wide receiver of all time, but play the wide receiver position the way he does. And I think hopefully that could set up Kanata in a window where he might have actual fantasy relevance, but also increase in value to a place that you might want to get off of him if you don't really necessarily like what you're seeing, or maybe some of the underlying metrics don't align with long-term fantasy success. It's a very successful offense. So I definitely could see him still being relevant is all. So check your leagues if he's available. There's going to be some leagues out there that I do think that he'll probably be available on waivers. I already found him in a couple of leagues on waivers this past week. So something to keep an eye out on. But anyway, that's all I got to say.
I guess I'm gonna have to fight you for some of those.
No, I have him on all those leagues. You bum.
Yes, no. I mean, I think that you could easily see him score a touchdown or something in the coming weeks. But I think more interestingly, maybe Colby Parkinson is probably startable after this, right? Like, I mean, he obviously had a big game, but with Adams out, I think he's just the trust that Stafford has shown in him. He's probably going to be a more regular, reliable target in this offense for the next couple of weeks. So if you're in a pinch for a tight end, or if you're looking to trade for a tight end right now, he's probably the cheapest of options that might actually give you something.
Yeah, we're not starting Bumfield in the playoffs. Don't do that.
No, Bumfield, no, we're not doing that. No.
Don't be so offensive to fucking Kanata Mumfield. Jesus Christ.
Unless you're in the losers bracket, maybe he helps you out through there.
Play upside.
Last one. Marshawn Lloyd hamstring again. Anything to add?
Nothing new here. This is the same old.
Yeah,
he's had the same injury for 3 years, right, or 2.5 years.
Yeah, all 2 years. Yep.
Yeah, the only reason I added it, honestly, like, is Marshawn Lloyd a cut candidate on your roster? Like, I know he's going to be sitting on IR again. Like, is he someone that we are at this point where we're just like, he has borderline no dynasty value, or are we just willing to continue to accept the draft capital, understands the profile coming in, and say, you know what, when he's finally on the field, he will finally break through and make up for whatever I acquired him for back in the day?
I don't know. I've rostered worse, so I just keep them. I don't want to galaxy brain the whole thing. Like,
yeah,
that's. I mean, honestly, I'm similar feeling. But like, if I have 5 IR spots, I find it hard to believe there's 5 IR players that I'd rather keep other than him. You know what I mean? Like, I don't mind just sitting him on IR. It depends, obviously, who those, the other 4 are, if you have those. But yeah, if he's sitting on IR, I'll keep him there. Otherwise, definitely qualifies as a cut candidate. I would probably, before end of season, try to send out a couple combo offers with him included and see if I could just, get something for him. But yeah.
Cool. On to some strategy here, or the thoughts behind some strategy now that we're in the playoffs, coming into the semis. How are you beating your opponent? Playoffs make us much more attuned to matchups, our opponent's team schedules, etc. But why? Do we change our approach? Is it innate? Or do we overmanage? I'll start with Jake.
Yeah, I am pretty plain Jane. I do the same shit that I do during the regular season as I do in the playoffs. I don't check typically my opponent's rosters. I don't believe that the way in which they're constructing their lineups or player matchups being on specific days really impact anything that my team can do. And I don't believe that any like last minute management is what's going to potentially be the make or break. There is a very small off chance reality where, like, 9 out of 10 players or 10 out of 11 players play up until the Monday night game. And the real benefit is me being able to bench one of those players to then end up winning the week. Whereas that opportunity doesn't happen for you if they're all playing before that Monday night game. I have to go with the idea that all of the assets that I'm starting with confidence that they're all going to be producing positive points and that no one is such a strong hindrance to my starting lineup that I am thinking that they are going to basically nuke some of my scoring, that I have to have that concern. So I guess, like, for me, I'll be transparent. This season, I've just been using the Dynasty Daddy start sit tool. So just manually going into all of my teams, looking at what the start sit decisions should be, following it almost like I have no brain, and then just letting it fly. One team, I will say I am using the Fantasy Points product because Lapisaurus uses it and we co-manage it together. That has been more successful, I will say. It is a more accurate tool, so shout out to them and what they've been able to do with that platform. I think we're hovering around like the 91% accuracy, which is pretty good. I will say smaller benches in that league, so that will have some slight variance and positive impact to the accuracy. If the benches are smaller, that means that your bench players are probably just not as good. Whereas I typically will be a little bit more lean on the deeper benches. So just a heads up there. But yeah, I think that's kind of where I sit. What about you, Billy?
Yeah, I think I'm kind of in the same boat in terms of, like, I don't really change too much in general when I'm like looking at my opponents in the playoffs. Yeah, usually I'm struggling regardless of if it's playoffs or not with these decisions. I'm just like, what am I going to do here? So yeah, I don't think that changes too much. One thing I will say, which I think is just kind of exacerbated in the playoffs a little bit, is I prefer if I can avoid Thursday night players personally, because those games, tend to be kind of a slog and not highly productive short weeks for a lot of teams. And I think actually this week it's a couple teams short weeks for these teams. So, yeah, I mean, if I can avoid those, I'd like to, but sometimes you just can't. You got to roll with it because, you got, Travis Kelce in that matchup or whatever it may be, or something like that. It's like, can you really sit that guy? Because it's Thursday, probably not. But those are the kind of things I want to avoid. But I'm kind of in line with you. Like, I think you need to try not to overmanage the roster at that point, right? You can definitely get into a situation where you're like, oh, this guy is projected to beat me by 5 points, so let me go and make a trade for a guy who then gets me 3 points that week. Like, we saw a ton of really good players this week have, bust, so you just got to be careful with what you're willing to do at this point. It makes me think I had somebody come at me. I don't think I put this trade, so we're not even going to talk about it, but come at me with, it was like Ferguson and Mike Evans for like a 28 first, right? And I'm already there, bro. Like, I'm not willing to spend that kind of capital on those kind of players. And I basically just told them, I'm like, look, I'm not looking to move that kind of asset for those kind of players. And so, yeah, that's kind of what I think of when I'm thinking about this and the kind of like optimizing my lineup in 1 week for this opponent. I don't want to really be doing that. If it's maybe I'm also getting dynasty value from adding a piece with my 28 first, and it can help me potentially win, then yeah, maybe I'll make that move. But most of the time, I'm not going to. You're right. Any extra thoughts on that?
No, I'm actually surprised that we aligned so closely there, because to me, when I looked at the question on the show sheet, I'm just like, for me, absolutely zero. Like, it's like, what was I thinking earlier? Dance with the one that brung you. Like, that saying. It's like, these people got me there. Like, I mean,
Yeah, I love it.
honestly, I think probably for the last 6 weeks, unless I made a trade for somebody, like the players in my lineups haven't changed a whole hell of a lot. The players that got me here, the players that got me here, and I'm not going to try to like really fiddle around with it. One thing that is kind of cool is, I don't know if you guys follow Ian Hartitz. You probably do, but he does his little mismatch manifesto, and that can be kind of useful if you're looking for, I don't know, maybe if you're using an optimizer or something like that, and you have a couple guys that are really close, like, like 60% the computer says this guy and like 40% this other guy, but then you see the mismatch manifesto, you might make a change there, but it wouldn't be something that's super serious. You're not going to make a change for a guy that's like scoring like 16 fantasy points per week, but a guy that's been scoring like the 12 fantasy points per week, and you're like, well, his guy matchup is better. So, I think that's galaxy braining, something that making those decisions and missing or losing is really going to piss you off, knowing that you shouldn't have done that. So I just kind of set my optimal lineup every week, and that's it. That's it.
I also think Josh Larkey does something similar to that, where he said it's basically a sheet of like the best and worst matchups by position, right? Like for that week, which can be for sure, especially if you're looking to kind of have a tiebreaker there, like you were saying. So, but yeah, anyway, good shout.
Yeah, cool. The only thing I actually wanted to add, just to feed off of Billy's point, is we had something like that. I didn't put it on the show sheet, but it was a pretty consequential trade. So someone decided to trade right before the Sunday games, 2/3 for Mike Gesicki and Noah Fant to put Gesicki in. The funny thing is, Gesicki doesn't have a very good game. They lose by 5. Their backup tight ends that week are who? Johnny Smith, who outscores him by 7 points, so he would have won, and Dawson Knox, who scored 21 points, and he would have won. And, I feel really bad, and I'm not going to say the person's name because they're all listeners, but it was one of those decisions where I think he felt that he was getting into the best matchup available for his tight end position, and unfortunately, to everyone's point, like went so against the grain, so last minute, that like I almost feel like the adrenaline took that decision over rather than just like being conscientious of what's happening in that exact moment. And things could have worked out in his favor and he would have felt like an absolute genius, but
sure.
More often than not, I think that's going to be the reality, is like you can do everything in that last moment. And it was actually really crazy. We were out like grabbing some coffee in the morning, so I had my phone on silent, thinking like, oh, I've got like 30 minutes before kickoff, everything will be fine. And then everybody was like freaking the fuck out, wanting this like trade to go through, and I was just like, worst case scenario, guys, like I'll make the modification as commissioner afterward. Like it's not that big of a deal, I promise. Like I saw the trade went through, but anyway, it all did not work out in that guy's favor, and I felt really bad. So just wanted to shout that out, because to your point, I do think that we can almost overmanage those moments and try and almost manually think that we could fix it, but we have literally zero control.
Yeah, and I'm not intending to shit on this person at all. It's just a simple fact that Gesicki is not any better of an option than those other two. You know what I mean? Like I get that, Higgins was out and the matchup was decent. So like totally like fair, logical play. But what I was saying before in terms of mine, where it's like, I don't want to move that first for those kind of guys. I'd rather do it for something with dynasty value. If I'm going to fix my tight end position for this scenario, like I might want to like really fix it. You know what I'm saying? Like go like a couple tiers up to make sure that I'm getting some level of more consistent guaranteed type points. So like I totally get the deal, and it could have worked out for him. And so again, I'm not shitting on him, but it's just more of like a macro level like process that you want to kind of stay in and avoid those mistakes. So anyway, moving on here real quick, hitting the YouTube comments. Lefty Joe, best thing about Tuesday nights, shout out, thank you for being here, brother, very much appreciate that, really like that comment. We have Iston in the comments here trying to stay in it when one team just traded CMC and Saquon. Wow. And I asked what that deal was, just kind of wondering. Wilson and a 26 first and second. That's Garrett Wilson and a 26 first and a second for Saquon and CMC.
Okay.
Whew, that's spicy. Yeah, I mean, I actually think I probably wouldn't spend that much on those two guys, but it could probably win you the championship. So I get it.
You got to be in this situation. You got to be. Are you willing to do the same thing to match up with them? Because I'm assuming this is your opponent that traded for Saquon.
I'm assuming just the way he said that. So yes,
yeah.
But
so you're trying to match up with that. Like, so now he put his sack on the table and is like, I'm willing to gamble. So you just got to really. It's a tough situation because that's a big move.
He said, "I'm not willing to do that." Is what he said.
Yeah, there you go. I mean,
which is
this is the thing. It doesn't guarantee he's going to win.
No, and how many times has your Saquon kind of been super underwhelming? Not because it's his fault or anything, but just the team situation. And it's not like it's getting any better. Who are they playing? I mean, well, I will say I get why he did it. I think they play the Bills. Maybe do they play the Bills? Is that who the Bills get next? Because the Bills have a terrible rushing defense. But let me see. They might not be. No, it's not. Okay, that's 2 weeks from now. That's 2 weeks from now. So they actually get the Browns next week. The Bills do. So no, it's not. I got to see who Philly has. Never mind. Anyway, yeah, I probably wouldn't do that. But yeah, I also wouldn't want to match that either. I'd probably just like Uriah saying, dance with the guys who got me here.
Cool. All right. As we
this too. Sorry, Saquon did not practice. I saw that earlier today too. Yeah, with a stinger. I'm sure he'll play, but not great.
Most likely. All right, cool. So evaluation season is coming up. We're still hot and heavy in the playoffs right now, so let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. But we can reflect a little bit on maybe some player evaluation that we had this year and just talk a little bit about it. So flaws and as an evaluator. Do you miss on certain positions consistently? Is the miss pattern related to talent or a certain role projection? And do you overweigh film versus analytics? Those are the 3 questions on this topic. Jake, I'll go to you.
Sure. I'll just hit on the first question at first, and maybe we'll just go around the horn there. But I think position-wise, and this is probably no surprise because I think this is probably an issue across the entire community, but tight ends, I think tight ends are, and you know what? I'm going to answer the first 2 questions together because I do think that I can do this pretty well. I think that Tyler Warren is a prime example of someone that I missed on. And I don't think that I'm missing on Tyler Warren because of talent per se. I think he does a lot of the same things that I saw him do in college. I think he still has a lot of the same flaws, but I just don't think that I realized that with the most perfect situation for him, he will still be just as successful as he will be in college. And that is something that I need to come to a bearings with. And I guess the polar opposite of that situation would be Colston Loveland, right? Incredibly high in Colston Loveland. I still think that there's a very strong chance that Colston Loveland has a fantastic NFL career. That's not really kind of what I want to get at here, but more so just the general rule, getting into an offense that has so many available targets. What is a realistic target share going to be like in his rookie year? Do I need to pay up at the 109 or 111 or, anywhere in the first round for someone who's most realistically vying for 15 to maybe 17% target share when I could probably get something better than that elsewhere? I think Mason Taylor, for instance, even though he hasn't been as successful, would have been a much better bet just in the position in the second rounds than paying up for Loveland in the first, if that makes sense. So, I think so much of what the expectations are about player evaluations going in is more so about the exposure. And shout out to Lefty Joe. Thank you for saying that. Much of the assumptions for some of these players are about what the teams are going to be doing. Come day one, I very much assumed that Anthony Richardson was going to be the starting quarterback week 1, which has a massive impact on what I also think the tight end position is going to do, what I think the whole offense is going to do, regardless of positive or negative connotations around Anthony Richardson. To then top that off, it wasn't like when the news that Daniel Jones was going to become the starting quarterback. I felt that much more aligned with the fact that Warren would have a more positive role or potentially more negative role. So basically playing those two things off of one another. I do think for the most part, running back and wide receiver, relatively accurate on. I do think that there's maybe some like archetypes within those positions that I sometimes can get wrong, or maybe like overvalue, but that's maybe for the last piece of this conversation. So I'll jump down to you, Uriah. Where is your head at?
I never miss. No, I think that maybe I think about Caleb Johnson a lot here about this one because I do really like him. I still think he's a really good player, and I'm just trying to point the finger at what's gone on there. Gainwell looks like, amazing. I think I kind of considered that his role would be easier for him to see the field because I didn't think that the competition ahead of him was good enough or great or elite or any special at any level whatsoever. Maybe I blame Aaron Rodgers and the fact he hates rookies. Maybe the fact that he fumbled week 1 on a kickoff return. I don't know. But I am surprised that he's had the absolute dog shit year and has done literally nothing. This is kind of my first year doing running back evaluation because I feel like everyone does wide receiver evaluation. I don't feel like I miss on certain positions like consistently. I think I miss equally altogether. Well, just, you hit and miss, right? Like, I like Trey Harris, and I thought that might be a thing. I like the Buka over Burden, and early on in the season that looked good, but it's not looking so good anymore. Tight ends, I think I did fairly well with. Obviously, Warren is a John Mackey Award winner. Go look it up. Me and Billy did this. Draft those guys every year. For some reason, the hit rate's insane. But yeah, but being perfectly honest, like I think I needed probably watch more running back film than look at running back analytics. I believe that the analytics helps me find wide receivers a lot more successfully than the running backs has. At least this is my first year really getting into just the running back things because you guys really are good at the wide receiver stuff. So I thought I'd bring a different edge to this podcast and try to really hone in on the running back thing. And I think that's going to require me to watch a little more film on these guys.
Yeah, I think that's really good feedback and self-evaluation, honestly. The running back position is, I do think you're absolutely correct because the metrics we have for them don't often capture exactly what they're doing, right? Like, especially, yards after contact can be super different for a guy who's really fast, like maybe an A-chain type or something like that, compared to like the Javonte Williams, for lack of a better comparison, but a guy like that who does come into contact regularly early and then does create some yards after that by running through dudes, right? Not really more so evading or never even being touched because both the line's really good and because they're super fast, right? Like there is, and so just kind of trying to highlight why I think from a numbers perspective, it's harder to capture everything with running backs, but with wide receivers, it's a little more baseball-esque where like the numbers kind of line up with what they're doing and the metrics that we've gotten a lot more metrics with, like yards per route run and all these different route participation metrics and everything. You can get really granular with what's happening. And so that makes a lot of sense. And even for me, like where I feel like I do a decent job sometimes with the running backs, there's actually some specific running backs that I do struggle with still. And I have some biases against, I think. I will say, though, Uriah, very good at tight ends. He's had a very good eye for tight ends ever since we've been doing this. So I think just you've always understood it's a very simplistic thing, but the John Mackey thing, but you've also understood, I think, kind of like the strength needed from the position and those kind of things. And you've been able to identify that. But for me, I'll stick on the running back just because we were talking about that. So 2 things for me. I feel like I still to this day let small running backs, the size, get to me too much, which is funny because I'll go out there and I'll cape for a Tank Dell at wide receiver. But what I can't come out here and be a little bit into Bucky Irving a little more or somebody like that. You know what I mean? Even though they may not be the best prospects, don't get me wrong, but it's like, that's just, one thing I noticed where I'm like, I don't believe that they can hold up to a full workload, but it's like in 2025, teams are willing to give them the chance to do it. And there are some guys who can carry the load at a greater rate than we're used to. It still may not be 3-down workhorse Jonathan Taylor volume, but you're going to get something near it. Like you might get something near it if the player is good enough and the team believes in them, right? So that's one thing. And then I also, just going the complete opposite direction on it, I think I do have a bias against bigger backs where I don't give them enough credit for their athleticism. And I think on a guy like Judkins, right?
Mhm.
Where it was more he's bigger, so he doesn't look as fast and look as nimble, but he sure as hell is. Like you can see it, especially in the NFL against NFL talent now. Not saying he's the quickest, fastest, but he can really get east and west pretty quick and evade tacklers, get on the edge, and really create something. And so I think I need to just, be a little less critical on both ends of the spectrum with these guys and, give them a little more credit with what they're doing. So that's, those are the two things with running backs that I really think that I have a trouble with as an evaluator. And then in general, I definitely have a bias against awkward running styles, like awkward gaits. And this isn't specifically towards running back, where I do think gait at running back is super important because of what you're doing at the position. Having a really narrow gait limits you at the line because of, where your feet, if they're too tight, it doesn't allow you to go east and west, like I was talking about before, as quickly. Having that kind of more square gait, that square body, allows you to plant that foot left or right wherever you need to go and kind of push in that direction. So I think it still matters there, but I'm thinking a lot more of a guy like Harold Fannin, right? A guy like Harold, who runs awkwardly. But the truth of the matter is that he was dusting dudes in college consistently. Yeah. He just was. And maybe the level of competition wasn't great, but we let the man as a community drop to the third round regularly. And for me, the biggest part of it wasn't really all like, oh, the competition. It was, I don't love the way this guy runs. I don't think he's super athletic or as athletic as everybody else is giving him credit for. And I was wrong on that. Like he clearly is, and he knows how to use his body, and he's able to evade tacklers. And so I need to check myself on those awkward running styles and make sure that the actual profile is not good. Not just he doesn't run like a typical runner or doesn't have a, perfect gait or whatever it is. Like kind of got to get off of that. So last thing for me, I can't nail down QB play. I honestly, I think if I spent enough time on it, I probably would get better at it. I don't really have that time in my life right now. I've talked about this quite a bit in terms of just focusing on the skill positions, because I do feel like I'm good with that, and I can actually, improve my teams, and I actually have an eye for that stuff. So, maybe once my second child is born and they're grown up a little bit and can self-sustain slightly more, maybe I'll spend a little bit more time with the quarterbacks, because honestly, the quarterbacks, in my opinion, the amount of traits that you have to chart out are so much greater in volume than it is for other positions, because it's physical and mental at a level that just the other positions don't have to deal with. And those mental aspects, you need to watch and watch and watch and watch again to really kind of understand. And also you have to have a really good understanding of what the coverages they're facing are. And so there's a lot going on there that I do think I could get to, but it's just not my strength right now. And so I'll lean on, the Waldmans of the world and the other people who, are able to put in that work and do it well. And I'll, not lean on, as much as I did in the past, these elite athletic traits without polished actual passing skills and, IQ related to that same thing. So, I know I just went on for a bit, but that's kind of where I think my flaws are as an evaluator. And I'll try to improve on some of those as we head into the 2026 class, man, because it's coming up fast. Like after these couple weeks here, we're going to pretty much be jumping right back into it. Like that's it, man. So, that's why we're having this conversation.
The only thing I want to add for you, Billy, is there's a perfect size.
More critique.
No, it's not. It's
I
not.
I just Eminem'd it. I'm joking. I'm joking.
I promise it's not a critique. I think it's really good for your process, because I thought about this while you were talking, and it reminded me that within this window, you loved Damian Martinez. Damian Martinez, archetype size, so much of what he is Quinshon Judkins. Like, I think they're both 6 foot. They're both about 220. They have similar-ish running styles. Like, go back to whatever you were doing. And I think those two profiles, that will be kind of the answer to like why you didn't
That's
get
a good
Quinshon
point.
Judkins right.
That's a great point.
You were talking about it, and it was the first thing I was like, wait. Like, there's a dude who fits exactly that, but you liked him. Like, and I know you liked him. Like, you fucking loved this dude. Like, why?
Yeah.
Like, what did you like about him, you know?
And I think that's a great point. And I'll go back and look at my film notes, you know, on the side when we're not on here, and I'll look at and see if there was some things that I was hitting Judkins for that I shouldn't have been for whatever reason. And I'm wondering if part of the reason was we liked Henderson so much that I wanted to justify it subconsciously by pushing his running partner down. Right. Like that, it wasn't on purpose for sure. I didn't in my head do that. Like, I would never do that on purpose, but subconsciously I do wonder if that happened, where I'm like, this guy's so much more explosive and faster. And this guy is just a, you know, whatever the word is, but he, you know, not exciting at all. And so it was just, very, very interesting. That's a great suggestion. I will go back and look, and we will talk about it. But this one right here.
Oh, go ahead. I was just going to say, you brought up a really good point. I think that's another aspect of the collegiate game that we don't really like hone in on well enough, is just positions in which individuals are splitting carries, splitting time, and how they impact the offense differently. Because I think a lot of people who are really high on Judkins were low on Henderson.
Yeah, they were 100%. 100%.
For some reason, it was somewhere in between, and both of them just happened to be very, very good athletes and are good NFL running backs.
And the funny thing is if you look back and you think to yourself, both of them should have been highly valued and highly rated, right? Because they both had great pedigree, both shared time. It's not like only one of them shared time. You know what I mean? They both shared time with each other. So it's like there was a reason all that happened. And, you know, maybe that was developmental, maybe it was injury related, because there was a lot of that going on. There's so many different things that happened there. And now they're both full-time, or they seemingly will be full-time players, right? Trevion maybe a little less than Judkins, but whatever, nonetheless. Okay, real quick here in the comments. Iston, everyone thought Judkins was going to a bad situation, would not be able to deliver. Okay, I kind of take issue with that, because I think it was a lot more related to the legal issues. I think a lot more people would have been in on him regardless of it being Cleveland, even though Cleveland, whatever. I think it had a lot more to do with they didn't think he was going to play. Like that, you know, that's what. But one more here from Iston. NFL teams don't even hit on QBs all the time, so hard to evaluate, especially if teams don't have the best system and staff for them. That is true. But I will say, guys like Jetpack Galileo, like there's a couple people out there who I think have done a decent job in proving that they can do as well or better than some of these guys. The problem is that the NFL doesn't improve and update their processes. They don't, like, or not fast enough. They're working with, you know, grading scales from 30 years ago created by somebody else, you know, instead of coming to the community over here who is, yes, are we doing things for fantasy? Okay, yeah, but some people are just doing things for the purpose of evaluating these players, and that's it, right? Like maybe for the community, for fantasy reasons at the end of it, but they're just evaluating the players, not like Jetpack Galileo is doing it as if he was a scout. You know what I mean? Those people are doing it as if they were a scout, and so are we, kind of, you know, in a sense. But again, like there are people out there who put in a lot of work, so it's like, yeah, I mean, I understand that these NFL teams don't hit on, and I shouldn't be as hard on myself necessarily, but I want to try to be as good as or better than them, because I think their processes suck and we could probably improve. Most of them. Some of them have decent processes.
The last thing I'll add, because I know that we're about 45 minutes in, is that when we collectively are down on a class, I think we just have to accept the fact that the class might not be worth some of the draft capital that we're willing to give up for those picks just because they fall within those picks, if that makes sense. Like if we sit there watching a class and we are evaluating players in comparison to previous classes, we should be able to look at, and, you know, we now have grading systems. We now have advanced metrics that we're comparing year over year. We should be able, if we're going to make those decisions, say this class is down and I will do something else with this pick than just spend it for the sake of spending it because I want to get into this class. And I know that there's two sides to that that need to balance themselves out. But I just want to call that out because I know that specifically in this class, for instance, at wide receiver, we were pretty down. Like I was very much Travis Hunter is the clear number one wide receiver. Yeah. I'm talking about 2025 was the clear like best wide receiver from a technical perspective, a route running perspective. I thought he was superior over Tet. I thought he was superior over Egbuka, regardless of whether or not that's accurate. I'm not saying that is the case. It's more so like stand on the precedent that is what you believe, and then don't overvalue like when it comes time to draft for the sake of just drafting. Because I do think that more often than not, you will end up losing out on what could have been a significantly better return for a lot of those assets. Same thing goes for Cam Ward, honestly. Like I was willing to draft Cam Ward at the 103 or 104. I probably could have gotten into a starting quarterback that is equivalent to 2 firsts right now with that same first. So that's the only thing. Like it's not an evaluation part of the process, but it's about what I'm doing with my own evaluation and then like willing to make my own decisions with that is
it's about the dynasty value you place on them, the rookie pick value, but still dynasty value you place on them.
Yes.
Based on your evaluation. Right. And understanding that we're doing it over year and have advanced metrics year over year. You're right. We can kind of be like, this one's not equal to that one. So maybe I should use, if other people are valuing this as equal to that one, maybe I should use this for something greater than that. So that's a great point. Really great point. Why use more words when what's the quote when you can use you?
I know what you're saying.
The office line. Sorry, that just felt like what I did there. Real quick here, one comment I think that's worth.
Yeah, sorry, I cut you off.
No, I you didn't with anything that value, I don't think. But 2 running cards, dancing with the dudes tight ends that brought him here. That's for Uriah. Also, phrasing. It's in value of that pick versus value of the player at the end of the season is hard to navigate. Yeah, absolutely. That's one of the hardest things to navigate. And the longer you do this, the more experience I feel like the better off you are with that kind of thing. And just kind of keeping up with the market values on like a KTC type thing is going to always help you out there.
Cool. That was very good. Let's move on to some trades and some non-trades. Unless you guys want to talk about the whole film versus analytics thing, but I think I kind of it's fine.
No, I mean I think we're pretty well all encompassing on that, right?
Yeah,
we're pretty holistic. I mean, especially as a podcast, we cover the whole thing. I'm definitely a little bit more film. I think Jake's a little bit more film. I'm probably a little bit more in the middle than Jake is, and Uriah is probably a little more data than. So we kind of cover all spectrums, right? We have one way on each side, and then one kind of in the middle, and all bringing it together. So I mean, I think that's the best of both worlds, and that's how you should try to do it, honestly.
Cool. All right, some trades and non-trades. In a medical league, we had Jamar Chase, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and Parkinson for Justin Jefferson, RIP, Ibuka, Brian Thomas Jr.
RIP.
I know.
Sorry.
He'll be back.
Dude, I mean, it is worth mentioning that JJM quote after the game talking about the gritty where he's like, Coach told me not to do it, but, knowing me, I'm going to go do it after that. You're like, bro, like keep that one in the skull, my guy. Like, what are we doing here? Oh my God. So immature. I mean, you can see hopefully true. He doesn't seem like a bad kid and he has a great team around him and great coaching staff around him. Hopefully by the following year, they can get this dude's mentals into shape because that's clearly the problem right now. Sorry. Had to say that.
Okay. Jamar Chase, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and Parkinson for Justin Jefferson, Ibuka, Brian Thomas Jr., and a 27 mid to late first.
I mean, look, I'm all about buying Justin Jefferson because based on what I just said, he's not the issue. So I'm into that. But man, this definitely feels like the Chase side to me. Jamar Chase, Amon-Ra St. Brown are, in my opinion, the most valuable pieces in this trade. Obviously, Justin Jefferson, can match some of that value potentially again, and he has before. But yeah, those guys are just so good. Their situations aren't changing. I see Chase as a little bit more able to sustain regardless of situation because of his after the catch ability. He's just a little bit more dominant in that regard. So I think that he offers a little bit more than Justin Jefferson. I like the other pieces, Ibuka, BTJ, 27 mid first. But yeah, man, that's just doesn't quite cover it for me. I think you're going to get more out of the other side, potentially both scoring and value wise long term.
Yeah, I generally agree.
Yeah, this was a fun one. This is a contender who had a bye. They were the 1 seed, actually. Acquired Chase and Amon-Ra. Trading to what I would say the favorite of the consolation bracket that was on a bye for the first week. So they were going after the 113. This league, very similar to DU1 and DU2, gives up the 113. I know I was super creative when I came up with that. And they, I'm not saying that they forfeited their ability to win the consolation bracket because these are still all great assets and they're all healthy. But I do think that it really pins them back and makes them look to the future. So I guess that's when you have to value to yourself, what is that 201 in this class equivalent to? Is it even worth acquiring? And do I think I'm acquiring more value later on? I didn't really talk too much to either person during the process. I had no idea this trade was going to happen. So when I saw it pending, I was like, ooh, I'm excited. What's going to happen? And then I saw the trade. I was like, oh, what the fuck is this? I processed it and I was like, wow, that was a lot of fun. But I just think that this is one of those trades where, to both of your points, you are basically giving up, I'm going to call it close to 7 firsts in value. You're trading into JJ. Yes, technically at probably his lowest. Egbuka's back going down towards normalcy, probably sitting at that 1.5 firsts to 2 first range. And then you have BTJ, which is doing the same thing. So yeah, I understand what someone's trying to do, but I still feel like you acquired assets that are going down in value for a premium, 2 premium assets going the other way, but you do get your own first back. And I think that has a lot of context here. I think it holds up a lot of this conversation that we're probably not giving it, because owning your own first in a space where, you technically came in 7th, it's a place where you can go either direction by the end of next season. And if you do decide to try and go for the 101, for instance, it probably does have a lot of additional value, right? This conversation is different if I tell you that it's the 27 101 versus the 27 107, which, like I said, I think it's going to be mid to late. I just don't see how this team tears everything down again. They've done too much work over the past year. So I think that's just kind of the mentality that went through in this trade. But by all means, if I'm doing this trade, I'm going on the Chase Amon-Ra side every single time.
Yeah, man, it's definitely good context. I just to your point, how are you going to make that 27 first a really high first with those kind of players? Because you acquired those players, I'm assuming, expecting them to regain some value, right? And also that means they'd probably be producing more at some point too. So it's kind of a bet contradicting itself in a way, even though I guess the idea is if things go totally south, at least I have my first, and maybe they get an extra first again through the consolation bracket. So I get the idea, and maybe they think that this is a similar, it'll give them similar points to kind of compete in that regard. So yeah, it's not a terrible trade. Like you said, it's 7 first for 5 or so. If you're breaking it down like that kind of thing, right? Something like that.
Maybe it's 7 for 6 or something like that. I'd probably say, right? It's 2 plus 1.5 plus 1.5 plus 1.
That's fine too. Yeah. So again, it's not the worst trade ever, and there's a lot of good pieces on the other side. So I'm not going to crush them, but man, giving up those 2 assets, you got to get something like this though, I guess, right? That is what you have to get back. But it's how much more value could you push for another first? It's tough. Those are tough trades. That's why also, this is the last thing I'll say, combining 2 players like that in a trade sometimes doesn't allow you to extract as much value. We talked about this before. If you have a bunch of quality assets in one trade, it's harder to get the same return you would if you split them up sometimes, especially if you're going to 2 different managers who have a bunch of picks altogether, right? Like it's like then you have more assets in general to work with. So it's just something to think about with those really elite assets. Sorry, we can move.
Cool. Next one.
Rad's like, shut the fuck up, dude.
Like, wow. I mean,
it's a big trade. All right.
It is a big trade. Yeah. All right. Next one is in Dan Morrison's Scottish Nitros Fantasy League. I traded away James Cook, Chris Olave in the mid third for Gene T and Tucker Craft.
Smash.
Yeah, not much to say, man. Like, are you kidding me?
I've been trading with this owner for the last few weeks, kind of knowing where I'm at. I'm not rebuilding, but I'm not. I'll probably smash the toilet bowl. That's probably what's going to happen. Completely, probably destroy it. I don't even know if there's a prize for it or not, but I'm going to try to win anyway.
If it's Dan's league, there probably is.
That's probably something. But yeah, I just been sending him players that's been helping him win along the way. And this one he sent to me, it was like, hey, that should at least be enticing. I'm like, I think so. So
yeah, I mean, again, not bad players. Like James Cook, good player. Chris Olave,
he won.
Solid player. Of course, yeah. But man, Genty, what he should be long term, and I think the value that you're probably going to get just going into next year, you could probably get off for maybe that entire kind of package of value for just Genty. Yeah. And then, you're also getting Kraft, who, despite the injury, I think is going to be a pretty highly valued asset long term. So I really like that trade. I think it's a really smart trade, one that's like lose now but win in 6 months type thing. But I think you kind of want it now anyway. Yeah,
I would just say it kind of highlights just maybe the importance of having strong trade partners. Just this is a guy I know that I could send pretty much. We could probably pretty much get any trade done anytime that we really wanted to. So,
which is valuable. Yeah.
Okay. DU3 Kyle Pitts, 2 seconds and more.
DJ Moore.
Just DJ Moore. Cool. Non-trade pre-big game. So it didn't go down.
Sorry, I just muted myself for some reason. It did not go down.
All right.
Don't even need to talk about this. Yeah, so like the reason I wanted to throw it out here is just because he had the 55-point game, and because if I had made this trade, I would have won my matchup and been in the semis. Is that too much value for Pitts in general? Like, I guess knowing what we know now, given the production and before, like, what do you think? What would you have done?
I don't know, because you're probably sitting there thinking like, I'm middling anyway. I might not make it. Probably thinking to yourself, I'm not going to win anyway. And if I do, I'm just getting lucky. So I'm going to keep my seconds. And so I think that's probably where you're coming from. And you probably did the right thing. It sucks that knowing now that you would have won, but I think you probably made the right decision. If you're on the fence in the semis or the quarters.
Quarters. Yeah.
You're probably like, I might just want to kind of keep these other little tokens with me just in case and see what happens. So I think you did the right thing. I think it's
that's great perspective. I actually think that's great perspective. Jake, thoughts before I throw my hat in the ring?
Yeah, I have more at basically a second and a third. So I saw this as 3 seconds and a third, or close to 4 seconds for Kyle Pitts. And that just seems like fuck whatever he just did this past week. Like it's asinine to look back at it like that. Like, how I feel about this. Like,
I know.
It doesn't this week doesn't work, or last Thursday.
It's not a logical way to. It's not a logical way to think at all. It's not.
It's pre-Thursday, and the value for Kyle Pitts was not that, and you shouldn't be paying that at that time. And it would have been a beautiful Cinderella story for you to have won, given you clinching this trade. But you didn't. And I think rightfully so. And it's going to be better for your builds moving forward, because what you would have realistically done is, knowing you, try and break up Pitts after you get knocked out of the semis, because the rest of your build still probably wasn't ready. And the 55 points would have inflated your scoring and all that. Awesome. But you would have traded him out for a first, right? But instead, if you actually break down DJ Moore in the best way you can, I think it probably gives you the most amount of ammo to really recycle with lower end assets, where you could have, by all means, with a late first or mid to late first, you could have recycled for a higher end asset. I'm not saying that, but you probably with this build need to be cycling in more talent to make sure that it has the longevity that you're looking for. Going back to like last week's conversation about building a dynasty, this will help you, I think, build the dynasty more rather than having Pitts on this team. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. I mean, I think you both are saying that. I think it's probably the right call, especially like I evaluated this team 6 weeks ago or so, or whatever it was, maybe 4. And I said, this thing's not ready. Right. So if I believe that then, I probably should still believe it now, because even with the acquisitions I made, it wasn't really enough to kind of like reset the way I need to actually push. So that was actually, we were going, me and my trade partner, and that when we're going back and forth, and we were like, both of us were basically like, maybe we should just let this go. Like, maybe we shouldn't do this at all, because he was like, I think Kyle Pitts will help me compete in the consolation bracket, because he was not in the playoffs. And he's like, I get it. If you don't really think you're like actually there, like this doesn't make sense for you. Right. And I'm like, yeah, like that does kind of like, that is where it's at. And so the other point of it though, to what Jake was saying, is like, if I had acquired Pitts, I would have, after this game, immediately wanted to get out of him. Right. That may have not been possible, to be honest. Like, maybe it would, maybe it was, maybe somebody, one of the other 3 competitors is like, yeah, I'll take him off your hands. I'll take his 55 points off. But if not, what happens this week if Drake London comes back and he has like another 7-point game back to normal? You know what I mean? Back to what he normally does. Then I have an asset on my team that's very difficult to move. And I didn't want to be stuck with another asset that was difficult to move and spend the premium to get him. You know what I mean? And so that's kind of what I felt like I was doing at the end of the day. So it's hard not to have these regrets, but I do think that if you're talking to the right people, like Jake, Uriah are both kind of like, look, you shouldn't feel that bad about it. And even if it would have won in your matchup for you, by the way, I almost won the matchup by, I lost it by like 2 or 3 or 4 points. So it's like, I kind of had a chance to win it anyway. And like, there's plenty of opportunity there. Other players could have scored. So yeah, whatever. But yeah, so the Kyle Pitts thing is crazy. I think this is just the reason I wanted to bring it up was because I think it's interesting contextually, but also don't overspend on Kyle Pitts. I think that's kind of the crux of the matter here. And I'll leave it at that.
Unless you're in League of Legends and you want them, I have them. Come get them. All right. DU3 saw this trade go down today because Joe's scared. And he traded just a 27-second for Derrick Henry. I think that's a great price for Henry if you're moving into the semis and you need a little extra juice. So I think that's a great trade for Joe, who's going to be going up against me next week. And yeah, good for him.
Yeah. I was just going to say, I made a joke to AJ who got the trade done on the other side. And I was like, how could you just trade the guy who beat you and knocked you out of the playoffs like this? But in all seriousness, like if this is an offer that's coming in from the guy who just beat you, no joke, like I'm sending that same offer to everybody else with a plus and seeing if anyone else is going to accept a second plus a third and be like, hey man, thanks for the offer. I'm so sorry. But like,
yeah, something like
you
that.
Just beat me. Like, and you can say it in good nature and they're not going to get like that upset about it. Like there's a way for you to best capitalize off this, be a good sport about it, but also just be like, I don't know, like a second feels kind of cheap. Like, yeah, Derrick Henry's rest of season schedule is pretty ass. And yeah, he hasn't been playing particularly great, but weird. Oh, reverse. It was in his inbox. Even better. Then I don't know what you're doing, man. Like, but respect to AJ. He's an awesome league mate. He really is. I fucking love that guy. He's easily probably the nicest guy that we have in all of our leagues, which is saying a lot because we have some of the nicest listeners in our leagues. Like interacting with you guys in inbox has been a pleasure. But man, AJ, I don't know what it is about that dude. He's just a good-natured guy. Such a good-natured guy.
We have found the least toxic people in the Dynasty community and gathered them all in one place. Now, you may think that's a lot. No, there's not a lot of non-toxic people. All right. So it's not the biggest group. It's an amazing group. All right. It's an amazing group. It really is. And AJ, to Jake's point, to highlight how good of a person he is, he does all the banners for our 36 team Dynasty league on MFL for free. Okay.
And they're awesome.
And they're awesome.
Beautiful.
And he did the theme for all of our DU leagues when they were in MFL as well. So
yeah, oh my God, I forgot about those. Yes,
for no cost, and they were amazing for all of our teams, for the banner, for everything. So, yeah, just really good guy, and we always have great people. So credit to you guys, man. Love y'all out there.
Screw you, Joe.
Yeah, I do think I will say I think that this deal in general like is pretty fair. I'm not sure that he's worth more than a second a year from now, or a second a year from now. Like, we're lucky if he's worth a second year from now. So
that's fair.
Yeah, it's a good trade.
All right, DU5, huge trade here. I lost Mahomes. So the trade is Phillip Rivers. I traded for Phillip Rivers, and I gave up Isaac Tesla and Ben Sinnott, which is, I think, honestly, probably the best situation I had. Moral of the story: don't go into the playoffs with only 2 starting quarterbacks. I was, playing with fire the whole year, which has worked out for me pretty well. But I lost Mahomes, and honestly, I have concerns that Dak might not play. Say they lose this week, and then they're technically no chance of making the playoffs, because right now I think they have like a 1% chance. He might not even play, even if I make it to the championship. So I was not willing to do a whole hell of a lot to replace Mahomes. I just wasn't.
That makes sense. Yeah.
I sent out offers. Mahomes for a player straight up. One of the first I got in that Dalton Schultz trade back, mid first for a quarterback straight up. And that's kind of the most I was willing to do, was to use that first that I got in the trade a few weeks ago. Want to give up Brian Thomas Jr. and yeah. And I just wasn't really going to do much more than that. And I was almost like, man, I don't know. Like, and I lost Devontae Adams, Christian Watson. Like, that team took and that's like my best team. It took a huge hit last week, and they weren't even playing. So I was just like, I can't throw enough money at this to feel comfortable moving forward. So bless Jake's heart. He went after, got one of my guys on that's still in Taxi Squad and Tesla, and then Ben Sinnott, who we're all hoping does some really good stuff. I don't know what the value looks like. I don't really care, but I was like, you know what? I got a starting quarterback in Rivers, and I think the price is right for my situation.
I think you did this because you just want to be in solidarity with the old man. That's what I think. That's what I think. No, but
I move like, way better than he does. Holy crap!
Yeah. Dude, mentally though, I got to give him credit. I do got to give him credit.
Yeah.
Mentally, he still clearly is seeing things, which is pretty impressive. I got to say.
Had to do something.
So like 2 things on this deal. Like, I think it could work out in the end. Like, it totally can. Like, another week, he could get a little bit. I think he's going to go up against a pretty tough matchup, though, I got to say. That said, like, I wonder if you had a skill position player that will score as many points as he will. I didn't look at your roster, but
I would
have
have
no
if I didn't lose Devontae Adams and Christian Watson.
Okay.
I could have put like Dalton Schultz in there.
Okay.
Tracy,
so,
right?
so technically you didn't at this point. So that's one consideration. Yeah. But if it's gotten that bad, then yes, you had like 3 or 4 players on this roster get injured, which is horrible. I guess my only other suggestion would be, well, let me ask. Actually, I don't know this. Who sent this offer? Did you send it, or did Jake send this offer?
Jake sent this. Yeah.
Okay. In that case, I probably, just knowing that you like Tesla, like at the very least, because he knows you like Tesla, I would have probably just taken Sinnott out of it and seen if you could do 1 for 1, or just send him back like a 4th for Rivers, or 2 4ths for Rivers, or something like that, and keep the potential players. Like, we're in the margins here, and I'm like really like, nitpicking at shit. I'm just saying like, that's how, like, in my head, like, I don't know. But maybe you value the 4ths more. Maybe at this point you actually value the 4ths more. I don't know. Like that could be a fair point.
No, Uriah just talked about this. Uriah said, and I quote, "I value trade partners," and he's not trying to be an asshole in this situation.
No, that's true.
And
actually,
I think if anything, I think it's like, you do this, and then he sends me something similar in a situation where I'm needy.
From now or whatever.
It's like,
okay.
It's like one of those things where we probably look at each other and we're like, yeah, you know what? You did that for me. I did that for you. Here we go. And that's
fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I didn't want to be sitting here. I didn't want to be sitting
the
here
value is
Wednesday
not that
night.
crazy. So
yeah. And I didn't want to be sitting here Wednesday night still not having that situation figured out.
And I'm sending you a third for
and I had conversations with at least 3 league partners, and none of them were going very well. I was getting bent over pretty bad, and I'm like,
and was somebody going to force you to send a 2nd or something for Brissett? right? Like, what were you going to be forced to do if you didn't do this? So honestly, this is a fair point, and I do think that Uriah and Jake's point here, that like good trade partners where you're not always haggling for like the last cent, probably does buy you some credit long term, especially with deals like this. So, okay, fair point.
And
Leave
the
me to
news on Christian Watson
nonsense.
right now sounds relatively positive. His dad did come out that night and say that he is fine.
That's
so
good.
maybe he practices this week. Maybe you actually have a more solidified starting lineup than you are hoping.
We'll see. All right.
No
console
optimism.
Wars. It was terrible news all Sunday. I'm like, oh my God.
No, literally, he kept coming in the chat. He's like, oh, kill me now. Oh, I'm dead.
It's the same team. It's like, spread it across my teams would have been nice. All right. Console Wars. CJ Stroud for Mahomes and a late 26th third. So this is the guy who lost Mahomes and had to figure out a way to get another quarterback on his team. And he packaged Mahomes with the 26th third to get CJ Stroud. I think that's a great deal.
Yeah, I mean, I'll take Mahomes every day of the week here. I understand, obviously, taking
Context.
Stroud. The context matters, and totally get like championship run. Like Stroud's a good piece too. He's going to have. It's not like you're trading. I don't know. Like I can't even think of a player who I wouldn't want. But it's not like trading for fair enough. That's another. Yeah, if you're trading, getting Stafford for Mahomes would be horrible. Yeah. So that's a great example. Yeah. So like this one, I was actually surprised. Like I'm always surprised by this stuff, and I shouldn't be, but the injury forcing you to add to Patrick Mahomes, you know what I mean? Like it always just feels horrible. So like to get plus on Pat Mahomes in this deal, knowing that, probably by mid-season next year, he just had the surgery or whatever, he's going to be kind of back and the value is going to creep back up heavily. Like that's just such a good deal in my opinion. And we've seen Stroud is taken is just, a roller coaster ride in value for him, and he doesn't have the rushing ability and all that stuff. So
yeah, this was me. I very much was standard douche nozzle. As soon as Mahomes went down, I checked all the teams that were in the playoffs who had Mahomes. I saw which teams were going to go through. I saw one team had literally, I think it was Jake Hayner and Jordan Love were his other two quarterbacks. And I was like, well, this is easy. Okay, cool. And the worst part was I was going to start off with Mahomes in a second, but he didn't have a second. So I only had one option. And went,
well, now you screwed the rest of the league. You screwed the rest of the league. You set the market now.
Yeah, exactly. I did. This is what happens every fucking time too, especially the quarterbacks in console wars. I always reset the market price and ruin the price for all quarterbacks during the offseason. So hopefully folks will forget over the next 5 months when they go into hibernation before the rookie draft. But anyway, yeah, I think that this is as best as I can do. The only thing I'll shout out to, I guess, myself, terribly enough, this league, I fucked up my quarterback room so hard. And this year it was JJM, Dart, Stroud, and Kyler. And now it is Burrow, Mahomes, Kyler, and JJM.
That works.
So it's going in the right direction, trying to take advantage of the right windows. But yeah, anyway, we like to show practice of the things that we preach. This is one of them.
Cool. Last one here, third party league. We got AJ Brown and DeAndre Swift for Egbuka and Parkinson. Yeah, I mean, without context, it's going to be AJ Brown and Swift, I guess. But
that's a crazy trade, actually. Yeah, I mean, like I see why that would be difficult. I'll probably take AJ Brown and Swift and try to get my value out of AJ Brown soon. Like that's kind of the deal there. It definitely depends. I think like if you're, was there context given for this? Sorry, I was kind of like half listening, but like
I intentionally didn't provide context, but yes, one team is a contender, and basically what had happened was Egbuka is our last starting spot that like we just can't get points out of consistently. So we decided let's trade into another wide receiver that doesn't score points consistently. But the idea here is we actually were upgrading our running back 2 spot, which was naturally Tyrone Tracy, or Javonte, or I think Jordan Mason, there was one other guy, Bam Knight, I think was an alternate. And so we basically provided a little bit more starting depth specifically for matchups. So now we have 11 starters basically instead of 9, I think it was before, or 10, with a little bit higher ceiling. And I think we improved the ceiling across the team. So yeah, AJ Brown and Swift were acquired for Igbuka and Parkinson.
You acquired AJ Brown and
Correct.
Yeah. I got it. And every time you say 9, especially when you like hold it, all I think of now is JJ McCarthy memes that are sent into the Discord. Just constant like 9 memes with a different head on the body. It's ridiculous. It's all I hear. But oh, here you go. Laposaurus context is AJ Brown and Swift are going to take us to the ship. I like that, Lap. I like that. Yeah, again, like I think that's the side that like makes sense. I can totally especially for a rebuilder getting on the Ibuka side, because you'll probably long term at the very least even out the value, if not, come out on top on that. But I think you can do a lot with the other side still in the next calendar year. So I think you guys are going to be able to compete and move those assets if you so please. Last one here though, comment from the YouTube channel here. This is amazing. Tony, in reference to trade, the Pat Mahomes trade, shout out to myself for being a boss. Good shit. Absolutely right. I mean, honestly, if you listen to the beginning of the show, I probably sounded like that too. So, we're definitely pumping ourselves up a little bit here today. But that's what the end of the season is for, if you're doing well, because there's plenty of seasons where you will do horribly. So, like I said, enjoy it, soak it all in, because like it doesn't always happen this way. You know what I mean? Where you have that much success. Hopefully, you do have some sort of success each year, but it's not always that way. So enjoy it if you're in it right now.
Cool. Anything else?
Not right now. I think we're going to be without Jake next week. Might be a little bit of a shorter one just because it's the holiday week. So I won't keep Uriah too long, but I do think I have an item or two I want to touch on. I had a topic that I came up with, kind of playoff or kind of like finals related. So we'll get into that. And nothing else, man. Thank you everybody for joining the YouTube channel. Obviously, as always, hop in our Discord. We love adding more people to there. It's just such a great time. Sundays is elevated to a crazy extent by the Discord and you guys. Like it's just a really fun place to kind of spend our time on Sunday. So thanks to everybody for being here.
Have a good night.
Peace out. Later.